Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Saturday, 26 July 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. India's Prime Minister Modi has touted the India-UK Free Trade Agreement, FTA, as highly beneficial for the nation's youth, farmers, fishermen, and MSME sector, citing global confidence in India. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal sees the FTA as a game-changer for industry, MSMEs, and farmers. Ashish Kumar Chauhan expressed his pride in witnessing the agreement signing. Finance Minister Sitharaman reported positive progress in India-US trade talks, emphasizing the priority of bilateral trade. India is also dedicated to strengthening its relationship with the Maldives, including support for capacity building. Amagi Media Labs planned the All-Corn 2020 crore IPO, aiming to be the first in its sector to go public in India. Stock market analyst Sumit Bagadia suggested buying shares of Filatex India, Southern Petrochemicals Industries Corporation, and Agrofos India. Despite these positive developments, India's equity benchmarks faced a setback, largely due to declines in barge finance shares. China is witnessing calls for greater US-China collaboration on AI safety, voiced by experts like Geoffrey Hinton at the World Artificial Intelligence Conference in Shanghai. The country is also set to host a U.S. business delegation headed by FedEx CEO Rajesh Subramaniam for trade discussions organized by the U.S.-China Business Council. Russia has resumed passenger flights between Moscow and Pyongyang after a long hiatus. Amidst the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, Russian forces have reportedly seized 2 villages. A Russian attack on Dnipro resulted in 3 fatalities, according to the regional governor. Maria Zakharova stated that Western nations have never prioritized a peaceful resolution in Ukraine. New laws are also expanding Russia's regulatory oversight of cryptocurrency. The United States will send a business delegation, led by FedEx CEO Rajesh Subramaniam, to China for trade talks facilitated by the U.S.-China Business Council. Despite rising protectionism, economist Jeffrey Sachs predicts globalization will continue. Japan and the United States have forged a new trade agreement, initially sending ripples through Japan's markets. The Nikkei index briefly hit a one-year high, and the Topix index jumped 2% to a record peak upon the deal's announcement. However, Tokyo stocks later receded from these highs. The agreement involves a possible $550 billion investment from Japan into the U.S., which Japan suggests could fund a Taiwanese chip manufacturer's operations in the United States. The certainty of this investment remains to be seen. Meanwhile, previous trade deals announced by Trump face legal hurdles in court. Elsewhere in Japan, regulatory slowdowns are pushing cryptocurrency liquidity overseas despite a proposed 20% tax. Detailed Doha. Saudi Arabia is rapidly developing its artificial intelligence sector, with HUMAIN at the forefront. The country topped startup funding in the MENA region in the first half of the year, securing $1.34 billion. Unemployment has fallen to 2.8% amid job market changes. Fitch affirmed Saudi Arabia's high credit rating with a stable outlook. Turning to Syria, Saudi Arabia and Syria have signed multi-billion-dollar investment agreements. Saudi Arabia is committing $2.90 billion to Syrian infrastructure as part of a broader aid initiative. Back in Saudi Arabia, the high-end dining sector is fueling a culinary and cultural revival. The watermelon harvest has surpassed 610,000 tons. A reassessment of the £1 sterling 20 trillion Mirror City project is underway. In anti-narcotics efforts, Saudi Zatka sized over 69,000 Captagon pills in 2 separate airport sizers. China is actively pursuing a leading role in artificial intelligence, AI, development and regulation. The nation released a global action plan for AI, emphasizing international cooperation in technology development and regulatory frameworks. This initiative includes a proposal for a new global AI cooperation organization, reflecting China's ambition to foster a global consensus on balancing AI development with security considerations. Premier Li Qiang cautioned against AI monopolies, particularly as the United States accelerates its AI endeavors. Alibaba Group Holding showcased its Quark AI glasses at the World Artificial Intelligence Conference, WHAM, in Shanghai, marking its entry into the AI-powered wearable technology market. Furthermore, Southeast Asian durian and coconut producers anticipate increased demand from mainland China, driven by Chinese consumers' preference for high-quality fresh fruit. Shifting focus to Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is facing increasing pressure regarding foreign interference in Canadian elections. Allegations suggest Chinese meddling in the 2019 and 2021 federal elections. Opposition parties are demanding a public inquiry into the matter. Trudeau has appointed a special rapporteur, former Governor-General David Johnston, to investigate the claims and recommend appropriate action. The controversy has fueled debates about Canada's relationship with China and the integrity of its democratic processes. Meanwhile, in France, protests and strikes continue over President Emmanuel Macron's pension reforms. The controversial legislation raises the retirement age from 62 to 64. Unions and citizens argue the changes are unfair and will disproportionately affect lower-income workers. The unrest has led to disruptions in transportation and public services across the country. The French government maintains the reforms are necessary to ensure the long-term sustainability of the pension system. Over in Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu has officially assumed office as the country's new president. He has pledged to tackle widespread corruption, insecurity, and economic challenges. Tinubu's victory in the presidential election was contested by opposition parties, who alleged irregularities. The new president faces the daunting task of uniting a divided nation and addressing pressing issues such as poverty and unemployment. Turning our attention to Ukraine, the war with Russia continues to dominate the country's focus. Intense fighting persists in the eastern regions. Ukraine is seeking increased military aid from its allies to counter Russian aggression. The conflict has resulted in a significant humanitarian crisis, with millions of Ukrainians displaced from their homes. International efforts are underway to provide humanitarian assistance and support diplomatic solutions to the crisis. Finally, in the United States, the debate over the debt ceiling continues to generate uncertainty. Negotiations between the White House and Republican leaders are ongoing to reach an agreement to raise the debt limit and avert potential default. Failure to reach a deal could have severe consequences for the U.S. economy and global financial markets. Both sides are under pressure to find a compromise and avoid a fiscal crisis. Europe experienced a surge in its stock markets as news of a trade agreement between the United States and Japan spread, propelling European shares to a 6-week high, fueled by both the trade, optimism, and encouraging earnings reports. Amidst this economic activity, Angel Ubaid, the head of economic research at Citadel, proposed that European nations contemplate the issuance of joint debt, particularly in light of uncertainties arising from policies in the United States. The United States solidified a trade agreement with Japan, a development that acted as a catalyst for market rallies across both Europe and Japan. While the broad impact is clear, the specifics of the trade deal itself were not outlined. Ukraine continues to grapple with the ongoing conflict with Russia, marked by escalating drone and missile strikes after peace talks in Istanbul collapsed. The brief negotiations yielded no progress, and prisoners of war returned to Kyiv without a resolution. Tragically, 5 lives were lost due to the intensified exchanges. A high-ranking Ukrainian general has cautioned that the current war of attrition could potentially extend the conflict until 2034 if the present strategies remain unchanged. South Africa's markets saw a downturn as investors grew wary heading into the weekend. Absa Bank has cemented a deal to expand its electric vehicle financing programs nationwide. Luno is now offering tokenized stocks, allowing South African investors access to shares in major international corporations such as Apple and Tesla. Looking ahead, Live Golf confirmed that South Africa will be a stop on its tour schedule in 2026. Australia is navigating an agribusiness resurgence and strategic trade realignments post-BSE era. The Prime Minister clarified that the easing of restrictions on US beef imports was not a response to pressure from Trump. Furthermore, Australia and the UK have reaffirmed their strong alliance and the AUKUS security pact. Turning to Canada, a Canadian company is reporting a significant oil discovery near Swinoujskie, Poland, with potential yields reaching 40,000 barrels daily. The port city of Swinoujskie, equipped with a liquid natural gas terminal, is considered a possible construction hub for the project. Meanwhile, the TSX showed a flat opening after Trump voiced uncertainty about a trade agreement with Canada. The United States is seeing the Trump administration's 17% tariff on fresh tomatoes imported from Mexico, creating challenges for major Mexican tomato exporters. This tariff is also affecting the supply available to U.S. consumers. Egypt is preparing for substantial debt repayments, with the World Bank indicating that $20.30 billion is due in the latter half of 2025. Simultaneously, Egypt is emerging as a key recipient of financing for renewable energy projects. Brazil is witnessing BitGo establishing its Brazilian subsidiary to become a prominent institutional crypto custody provider. This move anticipates forthcoming regulatory changes in the cryptocurrency sector. Bahrain is actively promoting Bahrainization, an initiative aimed at increasing the number of local citizens employed across diverse sectors of its economy. Morocco's Islamic banks are experiencing rapid growth, despite the presence of underlying structural challenges in the financial system. In the Middle East, 3 unnamed neighbors of Israel have entered into substantial weapons deals with the U.S., amounting to billions of dollars. Norway is facing scrutiny regarding the hidden costs associated with managing its massive $2 trillion foreign wealth fund. A new report sheds light on these previously unacknowledged expenses. The president of the Maldives recently met with the chief of a Saudi fund, signaling potential collaborations and investments. Thailand and Cambodia experienced continued clashes between their forces, prompting intervention from President Trump, who contacted the leaders of both nations to mediate and de-escalate the conflict. Globally, Asian stocks experienced a slight dip from previous highs, even as the US dollar strengthened in anticipation of a significant week for financial markets. However, Asian shares also saw gains, fueled by expectations of more trade agreements following the recent US-Japan tariff deal. Finally, Poland could see a boost to its oil industry. A Canadian company says that it has discovered large oil reserves near Swinoujskie, potentially yielding up to 40,000 barrels of oil per day. Swinoujskie, with its liquid natural gas terminal, could serve as a construction base. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.